Welcome to part 2 of our milkshake madness. Last time we built the whole thing from scratch and now it's time to actually make it look good. In this part we're diving into materials and lighting to give our shake some serious style. Let's get right to it. Before we get going, I want to remind you once more to go to Edit, Preferences, and for this part really make sure that Node Wrangler is activated because you're going to be needing it in this part. And then we'll start with our shading. So we'll go to the shading tab. And then I'm going to press Shift-C to center our piece. And then I'll zoom in a tiny bit, make my screen a bit smaller so I can show my nodes a tiny bit bigger. There we go. And then move it right there. We're going to start at the bottom. So we'll start off with our gloss material. Click New to add a new material. We'll be proper and name them. So we'll name this gloss. And then I'll zoom in so you guys can actually see what we're doing. We're gonna go ahead and make some changes right here. The base color can actually be completely white, so move that slider right up. Our roughness can go to 0.05 maybe. Our IOR is going to put 1.25, and then I'm just going to change the transmission to 1. And that looks fine for now. But we do want to add some more things. The thickness, I want to press Shift-A, add a value for our thickness. We'll connect that and we'll make it 0.01. Give it some thickness. And now I'm going to add a mix shader. And I will add that right there. And then in our mix shader, we want to add a transparent BSDF. And we can just connect that to the bottom. And then now to fix some shadow problems, we want to add a light path. And then this shadow ray goes right into a multiply. And then the multiply is going into our factor. And then our multiply can be a value of 10. That's it for our gloss material. I'm going to go through these materials quite fast because we have a lot to do. But yeah, just copy this. Once we change our render engine to cycles, we will be able to see through it, and it will look great. And then we can make some small adjustments if necessary. Now I want to go ahead and add materials to our shake, which we haven't created yet. So if we're going to layout, and we'll press Tab right here, select the bottom faces, press Shift-D, and then move that down. And then we can press P and separate by selection, leave edit mode, and then tab into edit mode here. And press numpad 1 to go into front view, press A to select all, and then E. And we'll extrude this up. And then we want to go ahead and press set and toggle X-ray, and then press G and Z. We want to kind of align this right here. And then press tab to go into edit mode. Press Ctrl R to add a loop cut in the center. And then we can kind of align this with our curvature of our bottle. Maybe we move it down a bit, and then we can press Shift. We press S and Z. And I think this looks pretty good. It doesn't have to be precise. But I think this will look like a decent size right there. Maybe we can adjust it later if necessary. Now we can go back into our shaded tab, and now we can select our new item. And then we can go ahead and remove this gloss material from it in the materials tab. And I will add a new material. And this is going to be named Shake. I'm not all too original with my material names, but I'll remember what it's called, so it's useful for me. We want to go ahead and add some nodes here. Press Shift-A, add a noise texture. And then we want to go ahead and press Shift-A, add a wave texture. And then we're going to go ahead and connect those. Our wave texture, you can just drag color right here. Goes right into a color ramp. And then our color ramp goes straight into the BSDF. We do kind of want to press Shift H here, just so we hide everything but what we're working on. This does not really look like a milkshake, yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and change some things. All we have to do is decrease our scale of our noise texture, and the more we decrease it, the better it starts looking. And now it kind of looks like it's some kind of like chocolate that is kind of swirled in there. And we'll change the detail to 3. There we go, that looks beautiful. Maybe we go ahead and change some colors on our color ramp. If we select the dark color, and we'll change the hex to 5D1F06, and then you can move it to position, if you click here, to 0.49. And then for our light color, we want to change that to FF8D66, and then we can change that position to 0.51. There we go, and now it kind of looks like it's a darker chocolate swirled into some shake. If you're making a strawberry one, make it pink. Be crazy, make it blue, purple. I'm keeping it in the chocolate theme. You can really do just whatever you want. Be as creative as you want and as you like. I'm also going to go ahead and change our roughness to 0, just to make it nice and shiny. And now we can press Alt-H to show everything again, and then we'll move on. And then we're going to go ahead with our dripping chocolate. We'll just go from the bottom to the top. So select it, add new material, and we'll call this dripping chocolate. It's going to be a very simple material. We're going to be using this technique a lot in this piece, so it's good for repetition, and you'll remember it for your own work afterwards. We start out by adding an ambient occlusion, which kind of colors our shading. So like we can add this to a color ramp like this. If we drag the color and we add it to a color ramp, and then we add the color ramp to our color here. What the ambient occlusion does, it kind of helps us with our shading. So the things furthest away from our from the light will become dark, will become our darker color. So what we want to do now is change our dark color to 482617, and then the position to 0.3. And then I'm going to change this light color to 753G25. Change the roughness to 0.15. And then now I kind of do feel like I want to maybe slide this more to the right. Like we can see it kind of like doing its thing right here. So I think this could be quite extreme actually. 0.75 maybe. It might be too much. It might not be. We'll leave it like this. We can always adjust it later. Then we have our chocolate bits. I'm going to just make this a tiny bit bigger. We can just like kind of like show them in our render again. And then we can just select one of them and then add a new material, chocolate bit. Great naming. Once again, we'll add an ambient occlusion. Drag the color into a ramp, and then the ramp into the BSDF. Then we'll go ahead and change our colors again. So the dark color is 2A0E05. Position we can make 0.3. And then our light color is going to be 451808. And there. Looks fine for now. Maybe I make this 0.4. We'll see how it affects our piece. But now, of course, we want the other chocolate bits to have the same styling. So select all of them, press Shift, select the one that actually has the material, Control L, and then link materials, and voila. All our chocolate bits now have our correct material. Maybe we even change this to 0.5. Why not? Be crazy. That's good enough. We can go ahead and hide it again. Okay, let's move on. I will go ahead and go to our ice cream right here. We'll press new, and this is going to be light ice cream. Once again, you know the drill. Ambient occlusion. Drag the color into a ramp. and then we'll add that to color. And then, of course, I forgot to decrease the roughness a tiny bit of these chocolate bits. So make it 0.3, make it look a tiny bit better. There we go. Okay, back to our ice cream. Yeah, same deal. Ambient occlusion, color ramp, roughness to 0. Now we'll change the colors right here. The dark color is going to be E48D77, and our light color stays white. We do want to change the position of this. You can kind of see it popping up right here. 0.6 for now. It might be too much. It might not be. Maybe 0.5, less extreme. As always, we can adjust this later. We'll keep it like this for now. Then we have some dark ice cream, and I kind of want to like have lines in this ice cream. So if we press tab here, and we'll press Shift H. I'm kidding, Alt H. Leave edit mode, then press Shift H, then tab into edit mode. I'll press set and go into solid for a second, and just to have it a bit more visible, press 3 to go into face select. And now you kind of want to hold Shift and Alt and select every other row like this, and just go around. You don't have to do this. You can give your ice cream one color as well. I think this is gonna look cool. So once they're selected, in your material tab right here, you can see here that you can add a material slot. And then we can add a new material, and then we can assign that material. And now we can press leave edit mode, and we can press Alt H to show everything again. We can hide our chocolate bits again. We can press set and go back into material preview. And then now here we have our new material. And this is going to be dark ice cream. Roughness to 0. And I suppose you know what comes next. It's an ambient occlusion and a color ramp. There we go. Connect that. Let's see. And look, it does its thing. That's perfect. So we just have to go ahead and adjust some colors. Our dark color is 492A29. And our light color is going to be F8F5350. And then we can kind of move this to the right a tiny bit, see where it kind of 0.6, 0.5. What was it we did on the live one? 0.5. Let's do this 0.5 as well. It's basically the same thing, so why change it? Yeah, looks good for now. You can once again make it pink, make it blue, make it orange, go crazy. I'm having the chocolate theme. You can do whatever you want. All right, let's go nuts. So let's show our nut collection. Select one of them, add a new material, call it nuts. Here we're going to be a bit creative, so we'll add a noise texture right there. And then our noise texture is going to go into an ambient occlusion, which is going to go into a color ramp, which is going to go into a base color. And then here we can kind of see the effect it has. I don't think we have to change too much with the scaling. You can. I just kind of like that it has a tiny bit of texture on it, just so we, give it a tiny bit of variance. I'm gonna go change the dark color to B83 and 900. Actually do that. And then the light color is going to be FFC 782, and then I'm moving that to 0.75. Oh, that went wrong. There we go. The roughness can go to 0.8 there, and I think this will look nice. If you look at it like here, yeah, that looks great. So once again, select all the others, shift click the latest one, Control L, link materials, and then we can hide them. There we go. And that's that. There, that looks starting to look great. A reminder, save your file. Don't lose all your progress. You'll learn a lot by starting over, but who can be bothered, right? Okay, chocolate sauce. We'll select it. New material, chocolate sauce. Yeah, once again, ambient occlusion. Drag the color, add a color ramp, add it to the base color. Change the dark color to 420 D06. Change the light color to 66140A. And then we can play around with this. You don't see too much difference. The colors are quite similar. Just changing it to 0.4, it gives it a nice colored shadow. Let's be happy with that. Okay, now for our small assets that are dumped into this thing. We'll start with our straw. We're doing the same as the ice cream here. We're giving it lines. If you go and tab into edit mode, press 3 to go into face select, and then hold shift, and then select this top face, and then hold shift alt, and then you can select the whole row. Hold shift, select the top face, shift alt, select the whole row. Hold shift, select the top face, shift alt, select the whole row. And then last but not least, do it right there as well. And then you can be like me and forget to first add a normal material. So add one material first, which will be on the whole object. Add a material slot, add another material, and assign that. Now let's see if that worked perfectly. There we go. So now we'll have 2 materials for our straw. Let's select the first material first, and with call it straw white. Yeah, ambient occlusion, color ramp. I'm actually just going to go ahead and select these and press Ctrl C to copy them, so then we can just paste them later on because it's getting a bit boring. Like that. Straw white light color is going to be 5F, 5F, 5F. White color can stay white. We want to use our precision a tiny bit. Put it on 0.3. Roughness, move that to 0.2. And that's that. And then we'll go to our second material, which is going to be straw red, or any color you want. I'll paste my ambient occlusion and color ramp, add it to base color, and then we'll change the dark color to 990400, and our light color is going to be FF002D. And I'm gonna move this up, see where does it matter. You don't see too much difference here. Make it 0.7. Beautiful. It's nice to use some red color. We'll also be using it in the cherry. It kind of makes the piece pop a bit, else it's just going to be brown and beige. Okay, we'll move on with the cherry. We'll select the cherry, new material, call this cherry red. Once again, paste our ambient occlusion and color ramp. Connect them, and then our color ramp dark color is 6B0006, and then our light color is going to be C20032. And now we'll go ahead and look, and how far do we want to move this up? There it kind of starts doing something, so let's make it 0.65. Roughness is 0.25. Did I change that on straw red? Roughness? No. Make that 0.2. Completely forgot that. But yeah, back to our cherry. Roughness of 0.25 is perfect. Select the stem. Call that cherry green. I'm going to add and paste our ramp and occlusion. Connect them. Our green dark color is 18450C, and our light color is 2B7B15. And then we'll drag this to the right, and there we see it starts doing something at a beautiful 0.5. is perfect. Roughness is fine. I don't know, it's a stem. Maybe we increase the roughness to 0.7. There we go. It's a nice popping color. Don't forget to save your file. Let's move on with the waffle. Select the waffle. This is going to be a big material, so be ready. Press new. We're naming this Waffle. And now we get to play around a tiny bit. Like always, we start off with an ambient occlusion and a color ramp. Before we connect anything, we're gonna go ahead and change these colors. The dark color is going to be 881E00. Here, I'll show it a bit closer. 881E00. And our light color is going to be FF480A. I want to add this to a mixed color. So I'm going to add that right here and then connect it to the A. And this is going to be into our base color. This doesn't look too great yet, but no worries. We add a noise texture now. There we go. Our noise texture goes straight into a color ramp. Who would have thought? And then our color ramp goes into B. Gotta adjust some colors right here. The dark color is BF5E00. BF5E00. And our light color is going to be FF983E. We get to drag around these a bit, changing this to 0.35, changing this to 0.65. There we go. Look, it kind of gives off like this nice, nice pattern to it. We can leave the noise texture as if we want, but it's kind of like pushed together right here, compared to how it is right here. Kind of annoyed by that. So if you click on the noise texture and press Ctrl T, and this is what Node Wrangler does. There we go. Now we get a mapping in the texture coordinate, which lets us mess around with the location, the rotation, and the scale of it. Now this is our Z-axis. So if we change the scale of our Z-axis, you can see like now we push it more together. So if you like that look, be my guest. I want it less. So maybe kind of like 0.5, half. There we go. I think that looks just a tiny bit better. We're not done yet. We do want to go ahead and add some more texture to it. A waffle has kind of like this rougher texture that bread does. So we'll go ahead and add another noise texture. Our noise texture is going straight into a color ramp. Our color ramp is actually going into a bump node. Connect the color ramp to the height of the bump, and then the bump normal goes into your normal of your BSDF. And then here we can see that it kind of adds this texture to it. Once again, same annoyance with our mapping node, but we're still with our noise texture. But we're first going to change some settings on our noise texture, and then we'll see if we actually do want to change it. In your noise texture, we're going to increase the scale by quite a lot. Let's change it to 30, and then we can up the detail to 10. I do see now that like you see it again, like compared to this and this is again pushed together. But since we've done it before, we can just take this mapping, put it into a vector, and there we go. That's fixed our problem. Now this texture is quite extreme at the moment. That's because our bump node has a strength of 1. It's not necessary, so we can decrease it. Somewhere here. Let's just make it 0.45. There, that looks better. Might still look a tiny bit extreme, but I think that once you move it to cycles and we have some nice lighting on it, it's gonna look great. And else we can always just come back to it and adjust it to our liking. Okay, let's move on to our chocolate. Don't forget, save your file. The chocolate bar, select it, add a new material. We'll name it chocolate bar. I'll try and be more zoomed in on my notes so you guys can see what I'm doing better, and copy my colors if you want to. Press Ctrl V to get back our ramp and ambient occlusion connected to the base color. The dark color is 44 2E27. Our light color is going to be, let's see, let's play around with it a bit. Maybe something like this. This is a slight difference. 60 38 2C. And then we'll move the dark. You can see it kind of do its thing right here. 0.7. Looks good for now. It will change once we add some lighting to it, but for now it is great. All right, our marshmallows. Let's start with a stick. Marshmallow stick. Yeah, ambient occlusion, color ramp. Connect that. We'll add a nice color to it. The dark color is 525C8B. Our light color is F0E9FF. We get to kind of, I'm completely kidding. It's 3B0D00. And this is going to be the EBB890. And there we go. And then we move this closer, and here we can see it do something. 0.4 might be great. Stick has a tiny bit more roughness. 0.6. We did not change the roughness of this chocolate piece. 0.3. Make it a bit shiny. That was the stick. Marshmallow. Add a new material. Call that Marshmallow. Once again, ambient occlusion and a color ramp. Add that to the base color. And then here we do get to add these blue colors. So 525C8B. And for a light color, F0E and 9FF. And then we kind of get to move this to 0.2 maybe. Maybe 0.3. And then we'll move this a bit to 0.8. There we go. It is too little roughness. Marshmallows are quite rough. We do want to kind of maybe add like a small texture to this, like we did on our waffle. And because we made this this marshmallow a duplicate with Alt D, we made it a linked duplicate. So the material we give to this marshmallow will automatically go to that marshmallow. If you happened to duplicate it with Shift D, you do have to like select this marshmallow and then shift click this one and then press Ctrl L to link the materials. But else you're fine. Now with our marshmallow selected, we're going to add a noise texture, which is going to go into our color ramp. Our color ramp is going to go into a bump node once again, and then into the height of a bump node, and then the bump node goes into our normal. Up the scale a lot, 50 maybe. Detail could maybe go to 5. And here we can kind of see what it does. You can add like a kind of tiny bit like this. At 0.2, I did a tiny bit softer, and then the bump strength. We do kind of want it to be visible, so 0.35. There. That looks nice. It looks exactly like a marshmallow. Okay. The cookies. Yes. We'll select one of the cookies, add a new material. We'll call that cookie. And then we're gonna go ahead and add a color ramp. We can remove the ambient occlusion. I'm just gonna go ahead and add a noise texture instead. Kind of want to give it some texture like we've been doing with all our other things. Select that, add that to the ramp, add it to the base color. Now we can see our effect. We do want to up this again. I want to kind of like have this cookie texture. 50 seems to be doing the job. I will change that to 10. That's looking pretty good. Let's change our colors. The dark color can be 35, 35, 35. And then our lighter color, 571, 900. And then I'm going to go ahead and move this to 0.75 and move this up to 0.3. Yeah, okay. I also want to add a bump to this. So now I'll press Shift A, add a bump. And then we can just connect our color ramp right here to the height and the height to the bump. There we go. Look at that. That's beautiful. Decrease the strength to 0.5. I also think the roughness needs to be higher, 0.8. And this, you might want to be turning this a tiny bit brown, don't we? Like a very dark brown. I'm going with 350601. There we go. That looks good for now. Maybe even darker, a bit less saturated. I kind of want it to be a tiny bit black for some reason, and it looks better. There we go. That's good. Cookie cream, barely visible, still important. So add a new material, call it cookie cream, and then we'll surprise you with a color ramp and an ambient occlusion, which will connect. We'll change the dark color to 926-44-3, and our light color right there is E7A9C9. Play around a bit with it. Actually, put that to 0.5. Let's go 0.5. Why not? Roughness 0.3. You're barely going to see this, but it's there. You know it's there. We've done the work. That's it for all our assets. Now we'll quickly head into layout. We gotta add a background. So we'll press Shift A, Mesh, and add a plane. Press Tab to go into edit mode, S, and scale it up. That looks big enough. Then press 2 to go into edge select. Select the back edge, press E and set, and we'll move that up. Then we'll select this edge again, and with Control B, we'll bevel it and then increase the bevels just by a lot. So we have this nice curve, and then we can right click, Shade Auto Smooth. Just to be sure, scale it up a bit on the x-axis. You never know what your camera angle is going to be. If it's like this, you're going to see that your background doesn't reach, but we'll be fine with this sizing. We can change it into material preview now. We do want to give our background a color as well. So we can just select our background, go into the material tab right here, call our background, and then we'll just change the color to E7CBB5. And that's that. Now we're going to go ahead and add lighting. Before we do that, I do want to first add a camera, so I kind of know what the camera view is, and then when we place the lighting, it's just going to look great. To do that, we'll go into front view, so press numpad 1, press Shift A, and add a camera. Then press numpad 0, and we're right into camera view. We'll press G, which basically is a grab, but then if you press Z twice, you can just like move it back somewhere there. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in a tiny bit. Now we'll press G and Z, and move it up. And then here we already see we're too zoomed in still, so press G and Z twice. Move it back a bit. I'm gonna move it up. And then press R, X. Kind of give it a downwards angle. Move it up again. Just until press G and Z twice. Just until we have an angle that we're satisfied with. And I think this is it. Yes. So now we can select everything and then accept our background. So press Control and deselect it. So now we just have our milkshake. And now we can press R and Z. We can rotate it a tiny bit. So you can rotate it that way, which hides all of your beautiful work, but we just want to rotate it like this. And if we just rotate it by, let's rotate it by 20 degrees. This looks good. Now we're at the point where we can kind of go ahead and rotate some last things. I'm going to do that in solid view. So let's see. Maybe rotate that one a tiny bit more like this. Rotate that a tiny bit more there. Am I happy with how this is sticking out? Yes, I am. I think we're showing that this cookie is staring at us a bit too straight. It's a bit too much in our faces. That did not help though. Like that. There we go, like that. Play around a bit with it. Press G and X, G and Y. No. Let's see. Maybe we just rotate it. Just kind of want to show this second cookie a tiny bit more. I think this is better. Let's have a look. There we go. I think that looks a tiny bit better. Just a slight adjustment. Is the cherry rotated perfectly? Can always play around a bit with that. Is it maybe a tiny bit too big? Probably is. Do we care? That's the question. I think we're fine like this. I think we're good. There's quite a lot of stuff sticking out there. GX. How much waffle do we want to show? How much waffle is too much waffle? I do kind of like the idea of that sticking out a tiny bit as well. I think we're happy like this. I think this looks very solid. Now we'll go ahead and we'll adjust our lighting. Before that, we're going to go ahead and go into rendered view. And then we'll first go to the world tab, and we're going to give our world a color, which is going to be CA6831, a beautiful brownish orange color. And then we'll go to our render properties, change the render engine to cycles, device to GPU compute, sampling viewport. I'm having it at 32. If you have a supercomputer, increase it. If you don't, decrease it. Render samples, make it what you want. 1024 is going to give you a beautiful render. Go all the way to down the bottom, color management, change the look to high contrast, and then let's start adding some light. So we'll start off pressing Shift A. Before we do this, press Ctrl S, save it. Shift A, light, add an area light. Press G and Z and move it up, and we can move this one quite high. I kind of want this just to be this light that kind of shines softly on everything. Let's change the shape to disk, size of 4, make it nice and big. A power of 200. That gives it a nice lighting, and then change the color to maybe a tiny bit more orangey. And let's start with FFD 8C9. Now we're gonna go ahead, press Shift A, add another area light, press G and Z, move that up, press your period key. We'll change the pivot point to 3D cursor. Now we can press RX60, maybe RX45, and then RZ60 minus. Let's have a look at the angle. From top view, go numpad 7, and then maybe we'll rotate it just from the side right here. I'm gonna go ahead and press G and Z, move that up a tiny bit, and we'll change the shape to disc. Size can be 2. Power, let's start off with 100, which seems fairly strong now, which is great. Also the color, maybe a tiny bit yellowish, not too extreme. What is it? FFE0C7. That looks pretty nice. You can increase the strength a tiny bit if you want. We do kind of want this side to be a bit stronger. And then we'll go ahead and press Shift D, RZ 120. So we'll have a light from the other side. I do kind of want this light a tiny bit lower. So I'll press RXX and just rotate it down. And I press G and Z. We can move it closer. And then we're going to decrease this by half. So change it to 100. And that is looking pretty decent now. We can also see that our light texture is working quite nicely. Might even think that that we could try and scale down our milkshake a tiny bit. So if you select it, go into edit mode, press A to select all, S to scale, and then Shift Z twice. You can really scale it down and kind of see the effects of it. And the smaller you make it, the thicker your gloss looks. This is not it. Let's make it a tiny bit bigger again. I do kind of want to show a tiny bit of the gloss. I think I'm going to keep it like this. It looks good. I feel like this light is a tiny bit too high, so rotate, so press RX twice. Shine it more from the side, and then move it up. Even move it closer. There, I think that looks good. Got some nice colors. We'll go ahead and add a backlight. So press Shift A, light, add an area light, press G and Z to move it up. RX 45 minus to shine it from the back. Press G and Z, move it up. RXX will rotate it a tiny bit more. GZZ, move it closer. Once again, shape to disk, size to 3 maybe. Let's give it a power of 100 and let's see the effect of that. Yeah, as we can see, it gives it a nice backlight. A backlight we do want to give a bit of a more color. Let's make it FFBCA6. And then last but not least, press Shift A, add another area light. Press G and Z to move it up, G and Y, and we'll move it to our background. RX, we press period key, change it to median point, and then press RX. We're going to kind of shine it at our background. Change the size to disk, size to like 5. Power can be 500, which is an overkill for now, but we can kind of play around with this. Move it like there. Change the color to a nice yellowish color. Just to give our background some color. There we go. And it's starting to look like something. Now you can just like kind of continue playing around with your lighting. You can move your lights closer, see what it does. Change the color a tiny bit more, make it feel a bit warmer. Same for this one. You can make it darker. So like your right side, you can even give it like a blue light, so it is like a colder light from the right. Maybe a tiny bit more reddish here on the right side. FFA 68B, and then this one I changed to a bit more yellowish. There, FFDAA5. That looks good. I'm happy with how this looks. I'm just going to go into our render properties and play around a bit with our exposure. If we change to 0.5, there we go. That looks a bit more colorful, a bit more bright. So bright I can even feel that we could decrease light settings just a tiny bit. There we go. Change that to 150. We'll decrease that to 75. I think we'll keep the light here. Maybe 175, just a tiny bit. And then maybe go to our sauce. Did we decrease the roughness on this? No, we did not. And change that to 0. That looks better. And then I think I'm pretty satisfied with this. So now all we have to do is render. And that's it. Hopefully you got some ideas on how to create your own food renders with these tips and tricks. If you want to keep on learning, check out this next video where we make a chocolate churro animation in Blender.